Friends, today let us question something that most people never question. It's silence. Have you noticed something? The moment you are alone with yourself, truly alone, something inside you begins to panic. You reach for your phone, you turn on music, you call someone, you start planning tomorrow. You do anything, everything to fill that emptiness. Why is that? What is it about silence that terrifies the human mind so deeply that we have built an entire civilization designed to escape from it? Think about it. We live in the noisiest era in human history. Notifications, news, conversations that never end, entertainment streaming 24 hours. Even our silences are filled with music we call ambient. We have turned silence into something we must avoid at all costs. And yet, every spiritual tradition, every great thinker, every person who has touched something deeper in life has said the same thing. That truth lives in silence, that wisdom emerges from stillness, that the most profound transformations happen not in noise but in the gaps between thoughts. So why do we run? What are we running from? Watch people carefully. Watch yourself. The moment there is nothing to do, the mind becomes restless. You finish your work, you sit down, and within seconds, boredom arrives. Not the good kind of boredom that leads to creativity, but the anxious kind, the uncomfortable kind, the kind that makes you feel like you are wasting time. So you scroll, you consume, you fill every moment with something because emptiness feels dangerous. I have watched this in airports, people sitting for hours waiting for flights, and not a single person just sitting. Everyone is occupied. Phones, laptops, books, food, conversations, anything to avoid the simple act of sitting with oneself. And it is not just airports, it is everywhere. People walk down the street with earphones, they eat while watching screens, they sleep with sounds playing. Even meditation apps now come with background music and guided voices, because people cannot handle pure silence. We have become afraid of our own minds. But why? What happens in silence that is so terrifying that we avoid it like poison? Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat in complete silence for even 10 minutes? No phone, no music, no distractions, just you and the silence. Did you try it? What happened? Most people who attempt this experience something strange. First comes boredom, then restlessness, then anxiety. Thoughts begin racing, worries surface, regrets appear. The mind, which was quiet when distracted, suddenly becomes loud. And that is the problem, is it not? We think silence is the absence of noise. But silence is not empty. Silence reveals what noise was hiding. When you remove distractions, you meet yourself. And most people do not like what they find. They find a mind full of unfinished conversations, old wounds, suppressed emotions, fears they never acknowledged, dreams they abandoned, guilt about the past, anxiety about the future, and beneath all of that, a deep sense of emptiness that no amount of achievement or relationship or entertainment seems to fill. So we run back to noise, because noise is safe. Noise covers the uncomfortable truth that we do not really know who we are. Let me tell you a story about Professor Poggle. One day, Professor Poggle was sitting in a park doing absolutely nothing. Not reading, not thinking, not even meditating in the spiritual sense. Just sitting, staring at nothing in particular. A businessman walked by and saw him. The businessman was jogging, of course, because successful people jog. He had a smartwatch tracking his steps, his heart rate, his calories burned. Very impressive. He stopped and looked at Professor Poggle with pity. "Sir, what are you doing?" Professor Poggle looked up. "Nothing. Nothing, but you are wasting time. You should be productive. You should be improving yourself." Professor Poggle smiled. "I am improving myself. I am learning to do nothing." The businessman laughed. "What is there to learn in doing nothing?" Professor Poggle replied, "Everything you know came from doing something. But what you do not know can only be discovered in doing nothing." The businessman shook his head and jogged away. Very busy, very important, very distracted. Professor Poggle went back to sitting, still doing nothing, still learning everything. You see, the mind cannot understand doing nothing because the mind is the doer. The mind exists only when there is activity, thinking, planning, achieving, reacting. The moment you stop doing, the mind starts to dissolve. And that terrifies it. So it creates urgency. It tells you that you are wasting time, that you should be productive, that silence is for lazy people, that successful people are always busy. But what if the opposite is true? What if the busiest people are running the fastest because they are the most afraid to stop? There's an old story about a monkey and a jar. A hunter wanted to catch a monkey, so he took a jar with a narrow neck and put some nuts inside. He placed the jar where the monkey could find it. The monkey came, saw the nuts, and reached inside. He grabbed a handful, but now his fist was too big to pull out through the narrow neck. The monkey could have let go of the nuts and freed his hand, but he did not. He held on tight, he struggled, he screamed, but he would not let go. The hunter came and caught him easily. Now the interesting part is not that the monkey was caught. The interesting part is that the monkey had a choice the entire time, freedom or nuts. And he chose nuts. Why? Because the mind cannot let go once it grabs something. Even when holding on causes suffering, the mind refuses to release. And this is exactly what happens with noise. We are holding on to distractions so tightly that we have forgotten we have the choice to let go. We think we are free because we can choose what to watch, what to listen to, what to consume. But we are trapped because we cannot choose nothing. Silence is freedom. But freedom is terrifying to a mind that has always been a prisoner. You know what is funny? People say they want peace. They meditate. They go on retreats. They do yoga. They chant mantras. But the moment they achieve a little bit of peace, they get bored. I have seen people go to silent retreats and spend the entire time thinking about what they will post on social media when they get back. Just finished my silent retreat, feeling so peaceful. #blessed, #mindfulness. The mind is like a child. Give it candy and it wants more. Give it silence and it throws a tantrum. We think we want silence, but what we actually want is comfortable noise, spiritual noise, positive noise, noise that makes us feel good about ourselves. But real silence, the kind where you have to face yourself without filters, that we avoid. Because silence does not give you anything. It takes away. It strips away your masks, your stories, your identities, and what is left is raw, naked awareness. And that is what we fear most. Not silence itself, but what silence reveals. Let us go deeper now. Why does silence reveal things? What is it about the absence of distraction that brings hidden things to the surface? The answer is simple but profound. Noise is not just sound. Noise is psychological. It is the constant activity of the mind. Thinking, judging, comparing, remembering, planning, imagining, everything like that. This mental noise creates a story. The story of who you are. The story of what happened to you. The story of what you want to become. And as long as this story is running, you are identified with it. You believe you are the story. But in silence, the story starts to fall apart. Without distraction, thoughts slow down. And in the gaps between thoughts, something else appears. Something that is not thought. Not memory, not identity. So that's awareness. Pure awareness that exists before the story begins. And this awareness is terrifying to the ego because the ego is the story. The ego is the character you have been playing. The moment you become aware of the character, you realize you are not the character. You are the one watching, and that changes everything. Because if you are not the story, then who are you? If you are not your thoughts, your achievements, your failures, your identity, then what remains? This is the fear. The fear that if you stop, if you become silent, you will disappear. But here is the paradox. The one who fears disappearing is not real. It is just a collection of thoughts pretending to be solid. And the one who watches the fear, the awareness behind it, that cannot disappear because it was never born. You see, the mind fears silence because silence is the end of the mind. Not the end of thinking, but the end of the illusion that you are the thinker. Let us pause here. For just a moment, do not think about what I am saying. Do not analyze. Do not just agree or disagree. Simply watch. Simply be the observer. Watch your thoughts like you would watch clouds passing in the sky. Not holding them, not pushing them away. Just watching. Just observe what's happening. What do you notice? Do you notice that thoughts come and go on their own? That you are not creating them? That they simply appear and disappear? And if thoughts come and go, then who are you? Are you the thought, or are you the space in which thoughts appear? Just watch. Do not conclude anything, just watch and observe. Good. Now let us continue. There is another story about a proud lion and a clever rabbit. The lion ruled the forest. Every animal feared him. He believed he was the most powerful, the most important, the center of the world. One day, a tiny rabbit approached him. The lion roared, "What do you want, little creature?" The rabbit said calmly, "I have a message for you from another lion, a lion who lives in the well. He says he is stronger than you." The lion's ego was wounded. "Impossible, take me to him." The rabbit led the lion to a deep well. The lion looked inside and saw his own reflection. He roared at the reflection. The reflection roared back. Furious, the lion jumped into the well to fight his rival. He drowned. The rabbit hopped away. Now, why did the lion drown? Not because there was another lion, but because he believed there was. His ego created an enemy that did not exist, and he fought it to his death. This is what the mind does in silence. It creates enemies. Boredom, emptiness, fear, loneliness. All imaginary. All reflections of the mind itself. But the moment you jump into the fight, you drown. The moment you react to these imaginary enemies, they become real. Silence shows you that most of your suffering is the mind fighting its own reflection. The mind suffers more from imagination than from reality. Most of what we call problems are simply thoughts we have believed too deeply. Awareness begins where the story ends. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the absence of the need to escape. The ego survives only when it is not observed. You cannot find yourself by thinking, you can only lose yourself in thoughts. Now let me tell you something that may sound strange. Most people are not afraid of silence, they are afraid of intimacy. Intimacy with themselves, because in silence you cannot lie, you cannot pretend, you cannot perform. You are alone with the raw truth of who you are. Not who you pretend to be, not who you want to be, but who you actually are right now. And for most people this is unbearable, because what you find in silence is not a perfect, enlightened being. You find confusion, contradiction, pain, unresolved emotions, parts of yourself you have rejected, desires you have suppressed, fears you have denied. You meet the stranger you have been avoiding your entire life, yourself. And this meeting requires tremendous courage. Not the courage to fight, but the courage to simply be. To sit with discomfort without running, to feel without numbing, to watch without judging. This is why meditation is difficult. Not because sitting still is hard, but because facing yourself is hard. Society teaches you to improve yourself, to fix yourself, to become better. But silence teaches something else, that you cannot improve what you do not accept. That transformation begins not with doing, but with seeing. And seeing requires silence. You know what is ironic? People go to therapy to talk about their problems. They go to spiritual teachers to find answers. They read books, they attend workshops, they do everything possible to understand themselves. But the simplest way to understand yourself is to shut up and watch. Watching is free. It requires no degree, no guru, no method. Just watch and observe everything. But watching is boring. So we prefer complicated solutions. We prefer systems. We prefer someone to tell us what is wrong with us and how to fix it. Because if someone else has the answer, we do not have to take responsibility. We can remain children waiting for someone to save us. But the truth is brutal. No one can save you from yourself. No teacher, no technique, no belief system. The only way out is in. And the only way in is silence. So what happens if you stop running? if you allow silence to be the main thing, at first you'll feel chaos. The mind rebels, thoughts multiply, emotions surface, the urge to escape becomes overwhelming. But if you stay, if you simply watch without reacting, something begins to shift. The thoughts slow down, the emotions pass, and beneath the chaos a stillness appears. Not the stillness of suppression, not the peace you force through techniques, but a natural stillness that was always there, hidden beneath the noise. And in that stillness you discover something extraordinary. You are not your thoughts, you are not your emotions, you are not your story. You are the awareness in which all of this appears. And this awareness is silent. It does not need noise. It does not fear emptiness. It is emptiness, vast, spacious, and limitless. This is what silence reveals. Not a thing, but the absence of things. And in that absence, we find freedom. The mind fears silence because silence is the end of the mind. But you are not the mind. You never were. Friends, I am not asking you to believe this. Belief is just another form of noise. I am inviting you to experiment, to test it yourself. Sit in silence, not for enlightenment, not to become spiritual, not to achieve peace. Sit in silence simply to see what happens, to meet yourself without the protection of distraction. And watch. Watch without judgment. Watch without expectation. Watch like a scientist observing a phenomenon. Because the moment you start watching your mind without interference, a quiet revolution begins within you. It's not the revolution of changing the world, but the revolution of seeing the one who is trying to change it. And that changes everything. Thank you for listening, or perhaps for being silent and in vibe with me.